Hello, this is the Uclan London Media Tour. It's a Monday morning and we're just outside the BBC building.
Given a bit of a spiel about the building and who's going to be moving in, Persian and Arabic have been here for the last 2-3 years.
Arabic's been here for 4 years. They were the first people to move in when all the other floors were construction.
Where were they before?
Well, everybody was at Bush House before. But television, the two services, the service was at Bush, but the proper answer, I guess, is nowhere. Yeah. Sima here is the head of news gathering. She's in charge of all the foreign bureaus and all of our reporters who are overseas. That's the news desk. So that empty chair right there, they're all in there because it's breaking news. That's where the strand editor for the day sits in that chair. So they rotate that. If we want to know who's in charge of this room, it's the person who sits in that chair.
A studio, a TV studio, isn't. And so to get the two is really difficult. So if you were a viewer and you were watching us, I think you'd probably say that we weren't as good as what you're used to watching the BBC. If you watch regular BBC News and BBC programmes, you don't hear enough. There's the odd mistake sometimes, but you wouldn't hear or see what goes on here because it's just difficult to maintain that. So we haven't got a proper environment. We're doing the best we can in the environment we've got.
There are plans to bring together 28 languages in one newsroom. How do you anticipate that going?
No one's listening to us. I try to say to them, it looks good, and I know they're using us as a model. They're using us as a model. And the problem is that someone has to say the noise.
They sit here. It's the only production team that doesn't sit upstairs when it's preparing. They just sit and then their program begins. These are their cameras, so their programs are in live here and the camera follows their presenter into the studio. It's 24/7 television online offers, so we have radio studios, but downstairs and the upstairs have a couple of self-ops for, let's say, if world news wants to go to somewhere, other reporter goes and stands for him to have so then and it's staffed 24/7. Something breaks that someone covers ahead of us, they can see it. Also, BBC Arabic doesn't have any restrictions on using footage from the wire services. So, they can see, and you see TVs all over the place that have this, so that reporters and editors can see what's available. That's black is what goes on air from this studio. So nothing is going on air from the studio, so it's empty. The director sits there. This position would be again an Arab speaker who's got the running order and could help the English-speaking colleagues figure out what's going on. So they do the queuing up, they do all of that. If the director wants someone to shut up and they don't speak English, then this person will tell them.
Good. What I'll do, in fact, if you like, generally speaking, we don't want people taking photographs.
Well, I've done.
I think G.K. Chesterton said, editorial is something written on the back of an advertisement in every sense of the word. It has to be paid for like that. And so we have to find every way we can to keep the ship going, because there's only so far you can go on a cost per page. Now, you can pay up to £40,000 for a page, but the rate cards, particularly in this climate, are soft. But the point is, you've got to try and keep the revenue up as much as possible. So we've got every effort to harness online, in paper, and every other sort of gadget we've got to enhance the people's messages. So it's not just putting a page in and hoping that will respond. You know, we can do all sorts of other tricks of the trade as well. And so that keeps the whole thing going. Up until a few weeks ago, there was a round table. Remember the round table there in the middle?
What happened to that?
Well,
Legendary.
It was, you're absolutely right. I'm totally lost without it, to be honest, because the round table in the middle. But what they've done, and Mark again will explain more in detail for this, so you sort your notes out and those when you've done that. But this has got a screen where you can see the green screen there. It's because we're getting into iPads and we're getting into all sorts of other images in addition to this. And the awareness of the news has to be thought of. Not just this, but on the multi-platforms. But he'll tell you more about that, I'm sure.
Well, it's 4:05 and we're on our way to the IPC building. Just survived a near-death incident in the tube where Francois and I were having a chat about South African politics and managed almost to avoid the station, noticing it at the last minute as the doors were closing, and I used my rather large frame to bundle my way out, much to the annoyance of everybody in the train. So we're now approaching the Bluefin building, IPC. This is going to be good.
This is just an in-house app that we built from Jack White's app that was quite a similar sort of thing. It was 110 pages, and we built it both ways. So when you can rotate, it does both. That's kind of fun if that's what you want to look at. But actually, when we were building this demo, we actually realised you have to build it twice. Which means if you've got 2 designers sitting in that room for 3 days, actually there's another 3 days work to do, guys. Sorry. Built it one way, we've got to build another one. and you've got to sub it again, and you write all the captions, you've got to check it out. It wasn't hugely cost effective for us. It's interesting, you know, we did worry about the user experience, but I mean, do you actually want to read a magazine twice, this way and that way, and actually worry about the download? I mean, that's a question, because a lot of people still are building it twice. I've got a friend who publishes Empire, and they've got an issue because they built it twice, and they submitted the app to
That's pretty good press.
I'm just shattered. I'm just Maybe it's like that. It's not dry before.